Now, Ann Coulter is an American conservative social and political commentator and has become one of President Trump's most notable supporters. She's been described, in fact, as the high priestess of Trumpism and is one of only 45 people that the president follows on Twitter. She's also the author of 12 best-selling books, including her most recent work, In Trump We Trust. Do you still trust him?
If he doesn't build the wall, I'm changing it to In Trumpism We Trust. I mean, his campaign was brilliant, and he finally allowed Americans to vote on issues they have not been able to vote on. Both political parties are really for the donors and for Wall Street and not for the vast middle of America. When Trump came along, I realized how much I hated my own party. But he's got to follow through on it.
Well, I mean, we're into the second year of his presidency.
Yes.
The wall is still far from being built, I have to say. Do you think it ever will be?
Yes, well, I'm not sure how much longer. I'm going to be one of the few people he follows on Twitter, since I keep posting every night the border wall update. Miles built since inauguration, 0. Miles built today, 0. Next update tomorrow. No, I mean, he's got to get to it. He still can, and there are great things he's done, but there are some core...
What are the great things he's done?
The judges have been good. I hate going back to that because he did that basically the first week.
The Supreme Court.
Yeah. And this probably won't be a huge hit at BBC, but he recently came out for defunding our public broadcasting, which, I mean, it is a little bit different in the U.S. I've been watching your TV, and apparently the British are incapable of being bored. We have so much TV, so many channels. You really don't need the bonus, you know, PBS and NPR. It's kind of weird in America.
But speaking of TV, we are told that he spends in the White House an awful lot of time, maybe hours a day, watching TV and then tweeting about it. And I was saying that, you know, he follows you on Twitter. He's huge on Twitter, obviously.
He is.
But is that the right way to run the most powerful country in the world, to be watching TV and tweeting?
Well, when I consider what my days look like, I'm a little resentful of the idea that sitting around all day watching TV and tweeting is not considered very hard work. But moreover, as for the tweeting, I mean, he gets a lot of criticism for that. I love the tweeting. Not just because it's funny, not just because it sends off the media into, you know, paroxysms of horror, which is fun in and of itself, but I like this idea of having a direct view into the president's thoughts. I mean, you really don't need, usually after a presidency, there are all these books written by people who were in the room and what he was thinking and what he was saying. All of America's in the room with him.
But it's not working, because if you look at the polls, and, you know, whatever you think of the polls, you know, female approval ratings have gone down from 35% in April to 29% now. White women with a college degree from 40% to 27% now. Is he going to get back in, do you think?
Well, I do think he needs to keep his promises. There was one promise that at every campaign stop for 18 months he uttered. It was, I'm going to build the wall. So he's really got to build the wall. And that includes deporting illegals. I mean, he said to the angel moms, the mothers of children who've been killed by illegals, you know, he brought them on stage. It was a big thing. No other candidate would do that. And I saw him at the event saying publicly, I will never forget you. He's kind of forgetting them. Now, again, he's done great things. I'm so glad it's not Hillary. Way cut back on regulations. That's fantastic. The tax cut's okay, but that's not really his big promise. If he does what he said he was going to do, if he builds a wall, he can start selling Ivanka merchandise from the Oval Office, and he will be reelected. If he doesn't build the wall, okay. I don't know. And as for
you're very fixated on the wall, but let's
a symbol for the whole immigration issue.
Well, you're very anti-immigration, aren't you? Is the United States not a country that was built on immigration? That is what made America great originally, immigration. No. Well, you're denying that it was built on immigration?
Yes, it was one of your colonies. It was one of your great success stories for 400 years. I mean, it's all in my book, Adios, America, The Left's Plan to Turn Our Country into a Third World Hellhole, which Donald Trump read. That's where he got that great stuff about Mexican rapists. For the first 400 years of America's existence...
But your ancestors were immigrants in the United States.
My ancestors were settlers. No, they were British. They fought in the American Revolution against your people. They were Dutch. There were some early Germans. There were some Irish. No, they weren't, because there was no America to immigrate to. It was a bunch of warring tribes.
There weren't any people in America.
There were people, but it wasn't America. I don't live in Cherokee Nation.
Okay, let's move on.
If I lived in Cherokee Nation, I would be an immigrant. But I live in the United States of America, and that was formed after a revolution against your people.
I read a quote from you where you said, I think everyone who voted for Donald Trump knew that his personality was grotesque. What parts of his personality do you think are grotesque?
You know, I don't think it's fair to go back to quotes I give to my fellow conservative newspapers when I'm in a cranky mood.
It's a fair question. I mean, you said that.
Of course it's true.
Obviously, you felt that there was something grotesque about it. What is grotesque about Donald Trump?
Well, the boastfulness, the coarseness. I will say on the, the famous Access Hollywood tape, I mean, our media is lying about it, and they're lying about it with consciousness of guilt. He said they let you do it. He was talking about the culture of celebrity and how some women will throw themselves at a rich man, at a wealthy man. He doesn't behave that way. I know he doesn't behave that way.
But is it right to have a man who, by your admission, has a partially grotesque character, to have that man in the White House?
I think I might have used a different word. I would say perhaps tacky and boastful and all the gold.
But you also did say, who doesn't want Trump impeached last September? Why did you want him impeached?
I wasn't saying, I was just asking a question. If he betrays his base, he must have done something that enraged me, probably this business about the Dreamers. And I do think, I mean, I wrote High Crimes and Misdemeanors. It was my first New York Times bestseller about Bill Clinton and the way our Constitution and our framers saw it. Yes, it was supposed to be a person of dignity and honor and character. So don't think I'm moving away from that. But we were desperate. Our country's at the tipping point, and we had 17 lunatics being chased around by men with nets running for president. Hillary Clinton, I mean, the house was on fire. You don't sit and evaluate the character of the man who's carrying you out of the burning building. And that's Donald Trump, but he's got to carry us out of the burning building.
Do you believe he will get back into the White House?
It all depends.
On the wall, don't tell me.
Well, that's it. And deporting and keeping his promises and bringing the jobs back.
All right. Ann Coulter, we're out of time, but very good to talk to you. Thank you so much for being with us.
Coulter, you love that moment. They were hissing.
I think we got our ad for 2018, 2020. What is so great about that is it is the Democrats' natural reaction to hearing about the American victims of illegal immigrant crime. They didn't have time to think. They just think, oh, screw those Americans. They probably deserved it. No, they immediately, automatically take the side of the illegal immigrant criminal. It was an astonishing, revealing moment right there. And I don't think they're showing that on the other networks. No, they want to pretend it didn't happen.
And the president mentioned a couple of instances last night. I did a town hall with Donald Trump, then candidate Trump, with mothers whose sons were murdered by illegal immigrants. Right. Nobody seems to ever want to talk about that part.
Right, and it's worth pointing out also, because everyone is lying about this, everything he said in that speech last night, he has been saying for 18 months or however long since he came down the escalator and talked about Mexico sending rapists and drug dealers. Nothing was new in that. And this idea that, oh, suddenly he looks like a president. No, this is I mean, saying he's putting America first. He's not running to be president of the world, but president of the United States of America. What would you say, he says to the Democrats, to the American family that's lost jobs, family members, income, because we refuse to enforce our immigration laws? He's been saying this every speech. Where have you people been? And the idea that they used to say this, what kind of State of the Union address will he give if he's sending out tweets like this? Well, come on, everybody knows you speak differently to your boss than you do to your child than you do to your mother. I always knew, I mean, he's a billionaire. He knows how to behave. It was the same message he has been giving all along, but delivered in a proper State of the Union format. And nobody else in that room, not Republicans or Democrats, could have given that speech.
Maybe earlier in the campaign, because it was so new, I didn't know how it would work out. I'm now the biggest fan of him tweeting. He actually had a great line. It's That's like owning your own newspaper. Yeah. And if you have as many followers as him, he's getting more people reading his, quote, columns than any newspaper or any major newspaper group of newspapers combined.
And it drives the left crazy. I see them over on MSNBC saying, well, we took a poll, and, you know, most people out in America say he shouldn't tweet so much. Yeah, okay, you checked in the newsroom. I bet you don't want him to tweet so much. But, yeah, he can punch back through Twitter. And it's fun and it's funny, and I actually do really like him doing that. But that speech last night, I mean, there were so many revealing moments. As you say, the Democrats sitting on their hands when he says we're going to stop drugs from coming into the country, when he says we're bringing 10,000 jobs back, and they're sitting scowling, and those women in white, those big sows, the most exercise they've gotten, they finally figure out, oh, we've got to stand for this. It's like Pilates for them. That speech was fabulous.
Amazing.
And they're not showing it on the other networks. I'm glad you're showing lots of clips from it, because I was watching it thinking, what are they going to say about this? I mean, every line was a home run. So they're just not showing it. This is what they did throughout the campaign. He would give a blockbuster speech, like a speech in Phoenix, and their position is to just say, trust us, America. You don't want to see it. It was dark. It was awful. And that's what we keep getting. Look, there was nothing new here. It was a beautiful speech. He loves America. No one else could give this speech. One little tip for the media. Stop asking him if he's softening on immigration.
He's not. He's him.
All these rumors keep coming from reporters. Yeah. It's the damnedest thing, because he's been very clear about how immigration, the new lodestar of our immigration policy, will be the interests of the people who already live here. Very clear point. How many different ways does he have to say it? And yet they just can't stop asking.
You worried?
Look at it from the perspective of the poor illegal. No, we're looking at it from the perspective of the poor Americans.
In Congress?
Oh, yeah.
Me too.
Yeah, there's only one senator who is desperately trying to become my favorite senator, Senator Tom Cotton. And actually, there are a fair number of House members. But no, those guys need to be knocked around. I think so, though. I'm not even sure. I mean, I don't know that many House members. But there seem to be a few good ones. But as I wrote last week, stop imitating Reagan and start imitating Donald Trump right now.
Yeah, and that would be good for them politically, and the country gets turned around, and our place in the world gets restored.
I think they may end up getting some Trumpian primary challengers. And
I think you're right.
I've always been against primary challenges to safe seats. No, I think we might want to open it up if they don't
step up.
Yeah.
All right. Ann Coulter, good to see you. Thank you.
Good to see you.
Up next, President Trump reached across the aisle numerous times last night, asked the Democrats work with Republicans on behalf of you, the American people. Will they stop being obstructionists? Don't hold your breath. Larry Elder, Ari Fleischer, Anthony Scaramucci will join us, and also later tonight.
That's why she's there, as a sort of a FU to the people who are criticizing him for this.
Liberals lashing out at President Trump. Why? For honoring the widow of a fallen Navy SEAL. It doesn't get any lower than this. We'll have that and more straight ahead.
It's going to get worse every day in the media. And here's why. By the way, the internal logic makes sense. They're corporatist, globalist media that are adamantly opposed to an economic nationalist agenda like Donald Trump has. It's going to get worse, because he's going to continue to press his agenda. And as economic conditions get better, as more jobs get better, they're going to continue